This is too good of a story not to tell, so I'm going to be the conduit, and it has to do with my college professor somehow calling a natural disaster before it happened within 24 hours of it happening just on sheer luck. So I thought it was quite an interesting story, and this was definitely the coolest professor that I ever had in any capacity of school or whatever. So I just think that this is a funny and interesting story, and I think that you would also find it interesting and funny. So, real quick, I always gotta shout people out for coming, whether it's your first time and you got here by mistake, or it's your a millionth time and you're returning. I appreciate all of you, and the only thing I ask is if you could subscribe. You'd be surprised at when you ask for people to subscribe versus when you don't, like I always don't. Just the difference it makes is pretty shocking. So, anyways, kick your feet up, light up a spliff, light up a joint, do whatever, pour a drink, and we're going to get into it. So, as far as my scholarly career went, it wasn't great. But I ended up like 1 year in probably like 20 fucking 14 or so. I decided to go to college. And I didn't want to take like math and like English and shit like that. So I decided that I was going to take psychology. I've always thought that psychology was interesting. I kind of like how the brain works, and like I thought it'd be interesting to find out what makes people tick and whatever. So I took that class, and I didn't want to go to El Camino because that's like literally it's called the 13th grade from where I'm at, and it's where everybody meets up. And like I just know myself too well that like I would have just not got anything done. I would have just been a distraction, and it would have been a waste of time. So I thought it was worth it to go to Long Beach. So I go to Long Beach, and I have this professor. He's cool. He's like late his very first day. He says, "Oh man, I'm gonna have to cut class short because I'm going snowboarding in Mammoth." And I just remember thinking like, all right, like I think I can get along with this guy. This guy's gonna be cool. So he's like talking to us, and he was like kind of local, but he grew up in like the Northridge area. And he was probably, I mean, this was 10 plus years ago, but he was probably like in his late 30s, maybe early 40s at the time of this story. So, this one day we're talking about, you know, I guess manifesting things and speaking things into existence. So, he's explaining that one night he's in college and he has some really, really big term paper or a final or like something that was like really, really, really important. And he didn't do it at all. And I'm gonna call him Mr. G. That really is the actual letter for his last name, and he was a G, so it's perfect. Like so, Mr. G. He's sitting there, and he tells this story. He told this story to the whole class. So he's sitting there, and he's like, "Man, I really just wish that the school would like crumble to the ground, or that it would like burn to the ground at night or something like that. Like, because literally the very next day, he had this big assignment due that he didn't even write his fucking name on the piece of paper. He had no idea what he was gonna do. So, like I said, they're passing the ball, and he says that. He's like, man, I just wish that the school would just fucking like get destroyed. So, they say that, whatever, and they go their separate ways. And between that time and the time of the next day, there was a huge, notorious earthquake in Northridge, and it completely destroyed the college that my professor was going to at the time. So, like, I'm not a big fan of manifesting, especially when girls are like, "Oh, I'm just gonna manifest like getting a job and having $1 million and whatever." But like, this fool really this was a long time ago, and he was just talking about it and was like, "Man, I wish that this would happen." And sure enough, that shit happened, and it's not very often that your gut can tell you about a natural disaster, which I wouldn't say it was his gut. It was just more of like wishful thinking. But either way, like school was canceled, and I don't even know how they proceeded, but I guarantee you they didn't take that fucking test that day. So, other than that, um, I just thought that that was a cool story that you guys would like. Um, I had a really nice time with taking that class, and I actually ended up getting an A minus, like right below A plus. And I hadn't gone to school in a couple of years, so I just like really understood that shit with like Sigmund Freud and B.F. Skinner and a lot of that stuff. I even one time I had to write a paper whether if you wanted to be blind or deaf, like if you were born, then if you had to choose one or the other. And literally the whole essay, I go back and forth and I'm saying, you know, I wouldn't want to be blind because I would miss my child's first like steps, but I wouldn't want to be deaf because I wouldn't be able to hear my child's first words. So I was going back and forth, and I turned it in like that, and I actually ended up getting 100%. And this was the first time I ever heard the word ambivalent. And he said, I can really see your ambivalence. And I got a 50 out of 50 or whatever. And I looked that up, and I was like, oh shit. Like, I think it means like, you know, being able to see both sides of things or whatever. And I still kind of don't really know. But I knew it was a compliment. So, anyways, that was my journey and my little story of speaking some shit into existence. So don't go around and hold your breath, but sometimes like they say, truth is stranger than fiction. So I'm gonna let it go right there, and I hope you guys have a good one. I will see you guys later. Peace.